The Solent region is a globally important site for coastal and wetland birds, providing rich feeding grounds in the winter and nesting sites in the summer. These birds require safe refuge to feed, roost and nest, and play an important role in the overall seascape. Sadly, man-made changes have greatly reduced seabird habitat, leaving many species highly threatened and in decline. The Solent Seascape project partners are working to restore and protect specific sites in the region, with the hope that the Solent can remain a safe haven for this wide diversity of bird life.
Welcome back to the Solent Seascape project. Over the next 5 years, we will be restoring a network of seabird breeding sites across the whole Solent region, starting right here at the beautiful Farlington Marshes.
So at the moment we're standing in Langston Harbour. We're actually on the intertidal. Low tide, and the tide is gradually rising around us. We're at the end of Farlington Marshes, and around about 200 years ago this would have been a shingle spit in the midst of a load of salt marsh islands. A host of different habitats: shingle, salt marsh, we've got mudflats, extensive mudflats, and all home to like a variety of different wildlife that make themselves at home here. So ground nesting seabirds face a number of pressures. They will build their nests on shingle, on salt marsh, on the ground basically. So they are facing threats which other things don't have. You know, in an expanse like this where there's potential for people just, you know, walking off or, you know, letting their dogs run off, you're going to learn quite quickly that's not the place to be. If there's a massive storm surge, you know, they may well get washed out, especially on lower parts. Really what we're trying to do here is create those niches for those species that, you know, that are so important to all of us who, you know, live in this area and visit it and enjoy the rich, you know, bounty of nature around us.
I met up with Wes from RSPB and Chris from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust at the Deeps, a site at the tip of Farlington, where some existing seabird breeding islands have become degraded.
So what we're doing is we're enlarging those 2 islands, and we've created 2 extra islands as well. And in doing so, what we're doing is we're creating a nesting habitat for gulls and terns, hopefully, but we're also creating space for waders to roost on in the winter. So the 2 islands, which are currently mud, you can see behind me, are going to be shingle capped. So we'll have about 300 tonnes of shingle on them. That will just create the most perfect habitat for terns and gulls to nest on.
And to build these islands, some serious machinery is required.
So what we had to do is we had to take what we had existing, the existing islands. It's not as simple as just moving a bit of dirt around. We've had to reshape them. So our digger driver, who is a fantastic digger driver, has managed to shape it. And what we've also done is create gullies in between. So as the water drops in the summer, what we're going to do is we'll steadily expose feeding habitat. And the thing is about the track dumper, it's really low profile, so it will come in and it can drive across all this mud without any issue and just dump it straight on. So it'll work really nicely. And hopefully a new colony will evolve here.
Moving east to the second site, Pagham Harbour, seabird nesting islands are already present, but they need an extra layer of defence.
So Pagham Harbour is an important place for nature because it's one of the last undisturbed spots within the Solent. Most places within the Solent are facing habitat loss, coastal squeeze, and this is just one of the last places that's undeveloped for miles around pretty much, so it is very important for seabirds. So, but when they do get here, we'll have things like sandwich terns, common terns, little terns, oyster catchers, ring plover, Mediterranean gulls and black-headed gulls. The volunteers have finished setting up what's our temporary electric fence that goes up at the beginning of every bird nesting season. And all those birds lay their eggs directly onto the shingle, so they're really exposed and they're very vulnerable to terrestrial predators especially. So this electric fence basically just gives them that little bit of extra bit of protection.
I just tied mine off at the top.
Because they nest on the ground, they're obviously very susceptible to terrestrial predators like foxes, and deer have even been known to predate them. So the fence basically keeps out foxes. You also get badgers. We don't get them on this site. Foxes have always eaten ground nesting bird eggs, but the thing is now they nest in these really concentrated areas, whereas before they would nest throughout the Solent. On every single beach, on every bit of shingle would be full of birds. But because they've lost all that habitat, they're now focused in these areas, and it can just take one fox to come along and wipe out an entire colony. The process of putting up the fence is fairly logistically challenging. Where we are right now, we're actually in the intertidal zone. So we have to walk out here at low tide with all the gear consisting of batteries, solar panels, wires, earth rods, you name it, basically setting them up in sequence for the fence to work. First we have to clear away the vegetation, and we have to clear it from about 1 metre of either side of the fence, because if any bit of grass or plant grows and touches the fence, it will short the whole thing and it wouldn't work.
A couple of decoys are placed to encourage the birds to settle, and we cross our fingers, returning next year to see if the birds come back. For now, it's back west to Langstone Harbour to see some examples of conservation and restoration in action.
Hey Wes, how you doing?
Hey Louise, how's it going?
Nice to see you.
See you too.
Shall we go?
Just stand this way. Good turn.
I'm excited.
You should be excited.
Yeah.
So as part of the Solent Seascape, we are looking to do at least sort of 10 restorations. But we've just done a long iron here in Langstone Harbour. Some shingle vegetation clearance out on Baker's Island, which is one of the ones over towards the Portsmouth side. Some scrub removal, some dead scrub removal on North Binnis, all of which sort of help enhance that sort of mosaic of open landscape for shorebirds that's been present and is still developing. So Louise, we're just coming up to the ridge on Long Island now. And this is the one we've just restored earlier this year. Every time we visit this at the moment, because it's so new, we really don't know what we're going to see. We've seen osprey resting on here. We've seen different birds dropping in, red shank. Okay, just at the moment, I heard some little terns chattering away as we're approaching the islands. We've got some large gulls roosting as well, which is quite nice.
As Wes showed me North Binnis and Baker's Island, it was clear that the restoration works were having a positive effect. Large numbers of gulls, terns, and even birds of prey were using these islands as safe havens. However, currently there is a new and dangerous threat affecting these colonies.
Have you noticed any impacts of bird flu this season?
Yeah, so we've noticed significant impacts. We've retrieved hundreds of corpses off some of the colonies. We have noticed a big drop in birds returning. We've noticed a big change of birds using different sites. It's pretty clear that the impacts are significant, massive, and ongoing, but we don't know the full extent yet.
Sadly, there is no clear solution in sight. Giving the birds multiple sites to choose from will help to mitigate the effects of bird flu by giving the birds more space.
A network of sites allows birds to make their choice about which site is going to be best for their own productivity in any given year. It allows them to adapt to situations going on, which we have no idea what's going to happen from year to year. Having one site, something goes wrong, they're just all in trouble.
This is exactly why the Solent Seascape project is restoring multiple sites, so that nature can reach a tipping point where it can start to recover itself. Back at Farlington Marshes, the first signs of this are appearing. The water level has risen and the shingle islands are now complete, offering a set of perfect nesting sites. And gradually, the birds are beginning to settle. It will take some time for the birds to become accustomed to these new spaces, with some still frequenting their old platforms. But generally, this is an extremely promising step, kickstarting the project's seascape vision.
The great thing about the Solent Seascape project and the LIFE programme is that it's allowed us to kickstart something here that we've been looking at for a long time. We are really looking at a transformational change across an entire seascape for wildlife.
And back across the seascape, more positive news is coming in from Pagham Harbour.
All right, here we are. Welcome back to Pagham.
Yeah.
So right in front of us, there's actually little tern fishing straight away. Yeah, so there's a nice deep channel just in front of us here that they'll fly up and down and start fishing in. And then they'll be nesting literally in the island just behind us, in front of us.
Wow. And there's two more.
And there's two more. They just keep, yeah, they showed up right on time. That was perfect.
Absolutely amazing.
So as you can see just in front of us, that will have anywhere between maybe 10 to 20 pairs of little terns on it. And a good year will have over 20 pairs. So we're in the end of May right now. Usually they'll have been nesting a good few weeks ago, but because of the weather, they've been putting it off the whole time. So we're getting reports of all over the country that little terns are actually just a little bit delayed. So, and I don't blame them. You don't want to sit on a nest when you're cold. So yeah, there's probably about anywhere between 10 to 20 pairs out there right now. So in about 3 to 4 weeks time, we're going to start to see chicks emerging, and they'll be safe inside that electric fence that you saw us installing a few months ago. One thing I really enjoy about this work is that you can see the results and you see chicks fledging at the end of the season. It says, yeah, that makes my job all the worthwhile. Places like Pagham, Langston, Chichester Harbours, they're really special places for wildlife, and more people are wanting these places protected. So I am very optimistic for the future of these places and these species.
Being down here in Farlington in the winter and listening to the Brent geese, it brings me peace and tranquility and better for my mental health, and I think that's really important for everybody really.
The 1.5 million people that live in the Solent have an amazing richness of wildlife on their doorstep. You can soak in the wind, the call of the curlew, the skeins of Brent geese coming over, the sound of a sandwich turn feeding. Imagine if people in the future don't have that.
As we know, species react differently to new habitats and structures. For example, little terns love new habitat, like we saw yesterday at Pagham Harbour. But species which live in large groups, like black-headed gulls, sometimes take a little longer to settle in. And that's exactly what's happened behind me here at the Hayling oyster beds. Seabird nest site restoration is just one of many initiatives that form part of the Solent Seascape project. Check out our website for new information and stay tuned.